Hey guys, hope you're doing well today or tonight. I wanted to make a quick video on, the question, why do most people disregard cybersecurity? Now, this kind of follows on from my previous video about cloud storage, hard drive storage, NAS, network attached storage, etc. But I guess essentially why in such a digital and technology driven world does the average person not really care about cybersecurity? Now, we'll kind of dive into this in the video, and I'll also kind of expand on why you should care and kind of, I guess, what things to look out for, right? So let's get into it. Now, why don't people care, right? Big picture, despite software becoming more secure and with more media attention, there's a lack of awareness, right? Now, what I mean by that is essentially it's becoming more of a thing, right? So obviously, um, software is becoming more advanced. Um, there is lots of, despite this, there is lots of cyber attacks that happen each and every day all across the world. There's lots of media attention around, hey, don't do this on the internet. Especially if you look up and Google, cybersecurity basics, etc., you're going to find lots of resources online, right? But there's just a lack of awareness or a lack of care around this. I don't think a lot of people really understand how important it is. Some do, and for the most part, like it's not really an important factor for many people. We're very lucky that companies have actually gone through the process of forcing things like two-factor authentication, forcing added layers of protection, maybe having different devices um, requiring approval, or I guess having to use a second device to require approval. So if a phone does get, for example, stolen, they'll have to approve it on your laptop if someone were to hack it, right? Most people just worry about living day to day, assuming nothing will ever happen to them. It's always the people that assume nothing that will happen to them, that something happens to them. Same thing as my previous video where essentially I had a phone that wasn't backed up to the cloud and it went bust. And I was very lucky to get my information back, but otherwise it would have just been gone. And we're talking 10 plus years worth of memories and photos and notes and everything. So super, super lucky. But it can definitely happen to you. It can happen to anyone. People get scammed just like, I mean, I saw some crazy statistic about SMS scams getting hundreds and thousands of people across the world, which is crazy to me because it might seem obvious, to me or to you, but to a lot of other people, it's not. So while you may just be focused on your day to day, there are people planning attacks, cyber attacks on you all the time. And if you're not ready for it, it's very likely that you'll get exposed. Okay. It's also quite complicated and boring trying to understand the nuances around cybersecurity. Again, not something that most people think or care about. It's something that isn't glamorous or fancy or exciting at all, really, even to me. And I'm excited by most things, but it's something that it's almost like insurance, right? It's something that needs to be looked at, needs to be considered, and again, it's like also like taxes, right? It's very boring, but understanding the details, the finer print, um, the what, the when, the why, all these things are going to be really crucial, and making sure that you're set up for, or I guess that you're cyber secure moving forward. Cybersecurity is generally an afterthought or something that can easily be pushed into the future. Again, it's only once something's happened to you that you start freaking out. Same as me and my hard drive issue or my cloud issue. Now I'm very focused on it, right? I think something similar, you can think of it the same way here, right? I haven't actually gotten, I don't think, exposed. Been involved in the cybercrime or cybersecurity breach, etc. But I'm prepping in case something happens. Just because you never know, you don't want to be the person who has to, redo all the digital identities and get new bank accounts, get new ID cards, essentially create a whole new life. Yeah, ideally, if you can put some simple steps in to avoid that, you should do so. Now, the importance of cybersecurity, right? Cybercrime and breaches are becoming more frequent and complex as time goes on. There are new ways every single day that software and people are being exposed. They say that individuals or people are the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity nowadays. And people and criminals are exploiting this through SMS scams, through you know saying that they're a family member or something like that. So people are exploiting that now, and another reason why you should be all across cybersecurity so you don't get exposed. For example, text scams, accessing your accounts, calling up the bank and saying that they're you. Maybe they have access to a device or some kind of information about you. Identity theft is a real thing as well. Never been exposed to it myself, but people obviously get involved in identity theft all the time, and it can really change your life and pretty much put a pause to everything. So, yeah, make sure you're all across that. Another point here, right? Cybersecurity. It doesn't just happen online; it can happen in person with people around you. Again, people that you know in your personal life could hopefully not, but they could tell on you, and if you've given out personal information or they know but this about you, they could access your accounts potentially. It could be also physically in like in and around your environment where you don't realize. For example, if you grab a USB drive off the ground and plug it into your computer, that could install malware and scams onto your computer. Or even if I've heard of RFID scams, where essentially people can essentially tap their way into accessing data. And obviously, you would have heard of as well the little skimmers on credit card machines, where essentially, if you tap your credit card, it goes over the top and it will skim your details, and then that can be used online. So lots of things can happen around cybersecurity that are in person around you all the time. Nowadays, everything is stored online, so if someone can control this, your whole life is impacted. Again, it's an increasingly digital world. Not being cyber secure is similar to not being, you know, not thinking around storage. It's silly, and it's wrong. It's something that's so important. Our lives revolve around technology and the internet and technology nowadays, right? We can't afford to just not be super safe and across our data, our technology, and just being cyber aware. So, what are some things we can do to be more secure? Now, really basic stuff, right? Never give out your details, right? Doesn't matter who it's to, even family members. This includes your password, ID numbers, maybe personal, maybe answers to questions that you would have as, I forgot my password, answer this question, things like that. Okay. And try to keep most of your life private. I know social media is a really big thing, and obviously I'm using it right now to record a video, but try and keep key details private. Obviously, a lot of people choose to not have their, for example, kids online. Some people do. Um, some people choose to, disclose where they live or kind of what they're interested in, where you might find them, for example, if they're traveling. So just just be careful with all that stuff. Again, if someone was to or wanted to find out more about you, they could easily look through all these things and really kind of piece together something that could be exploited in the future. So there's a lot more out there than we think, and a lot more that people can, I guess, come to a conclusion on, even with just basic information. Okay. Use software, for example, Apple, Google, LastPass, or just generally speaking, two-factor authentication on your apps to increase your online protection. So a lot of this is now mandatory when you sign up to different applications or apps. But if you haven't already, make sure you tick two-factor authentication or some kind of security setting on your device. LastPass is a really good option if you want to create really long, hard to guess passwords. And Apple and Google obviously can link to your devices and make it really easy and seamless. And even things like they hide your email, for example, with iCloud is really cool. Using options disconnected from the internet, for example, cold storage or physical notes when needed. An example could be a ledger. If you're into crypto, you could keep your crypto on a hot wallet online, or you could keep it on a cold wallet that never accesses the internet. And same with notes, right? Physical journals that could be scanned up and placed on, say, a desktop that sits offline or an SSD that sits offline, or literally physical notes and leave it at that, could be really good options as well. Simplify and consolidate emails, accounts, devices, anywhere or anything that can expose you. We have a lot of things that kind of we don't even look at nowadays that kind of just float around and are open and active. It could be bank accounts, it could be accounts with different businesses or platforms, or yeah, just anything, right? Things that are outstanding. If that's a way that could expose you or has your information, definitely like think about that. Consider it. You know, go back on your email, see what you've signed up to and what you don't really need anymore or what you can remove. And yeah, just be considerate with that. I mean, it could be the reason something gets leaked eventually. For example, if there's a specific app that you don't even use, but they happen to have a breach, then your information's out there. So just be careful with all of that. And the last point here is get a basic understanding of scams and learn the do's and don'ts around cybersecurity. Like I mentioned earlier, people are getting more and more advanced when it comes to this. Um, but even if you can kind of understand the basics of, don't hand out your passcode, use two-factor authentication. Don't, hand out details willy-nilly, right? All these things are very easy, and you can probably find like a one page on the do's and don'ts around cybersecurity that will help you out. Okay. Again, basic things that are really boring, but almost like insurance. It's essential that you get a grip of it now so that in the future, if something does happen to you, um, you're across it. But ideally, it won't happen to you when you've got processes, systems in place, and you really understand how cyber criminals or what cybersecurity or good cybersecurity looks like. Okay. So yeah, hopefully you guys have really enjoyed the video. Again, it's a little bit of a left field one, not really something that I would normally talk about, but something I've become more interested in recently because I've understood how important it is, and I guess kind of the fact that people do need to hear about this or consider it, because the average person doesn't. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know down below. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.